the skies over the Potomac River 1 year ago, an American Airlines jet and an Army Black Hawk helicopter collided, killing everyone on board. 60 passengers, 4 crew members, and 3 Army aviators. It is the deadliest commercial aviation crash in the U.S. in more than 20 years. Hi, everyone. Thank you for watching DC News Now. I'm Chris Flanagan. The Midair collision raising urgent questions about air traffic safety, communication, and accountability. Tonight, we speak with some of the family of the victims, and we hear from first responders who braved the icy waters of the Potomac River during recovery efforts. This is a defining moment in aviation history. It's become clear in the months following there were warning signs of a potentially catastrophic event. The NTSB found there had been dozens of near misses in the airspace around Reagan Airport in the years leading up to the crash. DC News Now's Ben Dennis tells us just days before the 1-year anniversary, the NTSB presented its latest findings in the investigation into what happened.
The falling tears on these faces mark 1 year of grief after the families of 67 souls were left asking, how could this happen? Federal transportation investigators shared answers.
We should be angry because for years no one listened. This was preventable. This was 100% preventable.
The National Transportation Safety Board believes systemic issues at the FAA, air traffic control, and within the U.S. Army led up to the night of January 29, 2025.
The pages of these reports are written in your family member's blood.
The NTSB's key findings concluded the helicopter route over the Potomac River was destined for disaster. Concerns NTSB Chairwoman Jennifer Hamady says fell on deaf ears after strings of near misses, including one at the exact same spot of the crash in 2013.
The data was there. The data was in their own systems.
Those close calls, she says, from October 2021 through December of 2024.
American 3130, slow the funnel.
Digital simulations showed what pilots in the American Airlines jet inbound from Kansas and what the Army crew within the Black Hawk helicopter on a training flight likely saw before the collision. An Army crew equipped with night vision goggles could see through a narrow green circle. In the plane, light pollution on land likely obstructed sight of the helicopter until 2 seconds before impact. An air traffic controller asked the Army crew if the jet was in sight. They confirmed.
Pad 25, traffic just south of Wilson Bridge to CRJ at 1,200 feet, circling runway 33.
But the NTSB says the crew could have mistaken other inbound flights as the one in question, and some words may have been blocked from being heard due to technical issues, including the directive to, quote, pass behind the jet.
Pad 25, did the CRJ in sight? Pad 25, pass behind the CRJ.
The NTSB also found one air traffic controller was looking at locations of 5 helicopters and 6 planes at the time, not usual, alleging the supervisor was also not aware of the air traffic volume.
I just saw a fireball and then it was just gone, so I haven't seen anything since they hit the river.
Did you encounter any evidence that maybe somebody did survive?
Our survival factors team had determined it wasn't a survivable crash.
The NTSB also alleges the altitude tool in the helicopter was 100 feet off, and the crew believed they were flying within height restrictions, but actually were higher, saying the Army knew about the altitude reading discrepancy and failed to tell pilots about it. A spokesperson for the Army says they will, quote, 100% comply with the NTSB's recommendation to now inform pilots, adding, our thoughts remain with the soldiers, civilians, and families who were forever affected by this event. In their honor, the Army is continuing to implement meaningful changes to strengthen aviation safety, enhance training, and improve coordination in our nation's most complex airspace.
Do you have any evidence that one person or several people were purposefully negligent?
We don't have any evidence of just plain out negligence. With accountability, I mean, that's why we issue recommendations, and we're going to push hard to pursue implementation of those recommendations.
A year of asking, how could this happen, shifts to, how can we avoid history from repeating itself? Prevention, not promises, are what matters most. In Washington, Ben Dennis, DC News Now.
On the night of the crash, hundreds of first responders from dozens of agencies rushed to the scene looking to save as many people as possible. Sadly, the rescue turn to recovery. For some, it's a children's luggage and small ice skates that have become the images forever ingrained in their minds. For others, it's the boats navigating debris in shallow waters to bring crash victims ashore. But for all, the magnitude of the night still impacts them today. DC News Now's Mario Carbone spoke to those first on scene.
A cold and clear January day on the Potomac River. The conditions, much like they were 1 year ago, when a military Black Hawk helicopter and an American Airlines commercial plane crashed midair, sending both aircraft and everyone on board into the river.
There's been tough days.
DC Fireboat Captain Michael Puglisi remembers that night clearly. The initial call was for a helicopter crash off DCA runway 33. Minutes later, when he and his team arrived on scene, it was much worse.
We came across victims in the water, and we started to recover victims, and sadly, none of those victims were alive. And when I looked out the front of this vessel and I saw the plane and its magnitude, I understood that we were in a severe crash.
The more he learned, the gravity of the situation grew.
I know that when I called back to command and asked how many souls were on board that plane and I got the response, that's when my heart dropped.
64 people on board the plane, 3 on board the helicopter.
This boat has a thermal imaging camera on there.
His first objective was to find and rescue any living victims.
And we pulled that up the night of the incident so that we could look for heat signatures of victims needing rescue.
How quickly do you think you realized that there wasn't anybody living out there?
I think I had that realization a little bit sooner than some of my other firefighters, but we all kept hope alive as long as possible.
That hope drove their every move.
And if there was any chance of finding a person that needed emergency medical care, we gave them everything we had to do that. And once we realized that that was not the case, we gave that same 100% effort to bring their loved ones home.
In the water itself,
but this was definitely something that I'd never encountered before,
was Officer Robert Varga, a scuba diver with MPD's Harbor Patrol Unit.
In that scene, it was very eerily quiet, and there was also chaos around you. You know, it was, of course, in the middle of a plane crash in the middle of the river. It almost seemed like it was a surreal environment that you talk about could it be a possibility, but you never actually expect to be there.
Varga and other divers were tied to the fuselage of the plane, going in the water at 20-minute increments to avoid hypothermia. He says the conditions were surprisingly clear.
But you could see the plane and the fuselage and things like that.
In the initial aftermath, it was his mission to recover every soul on board, bringing a dignified return to the families. By February 4th, the remains of all 67 victims were recovered, a feat some consider unprecedented given the conditions of the crash.
Yeah, it's incredible, and you know, it's a testament to all of us and to kind of the dedication to the help that we got from outside agencies as well.
In the days and weeks that followed, the mission shifted to recovering any personal items they could find.
Anything that we could get felt like a treasure.
Is there any one item that stood out to you that you were able to recover and connect back to a family?
Yeah, well, one item I did recover, it was a man's wedding ring, which I think would be pretty, important to have for their family.
They came to help people. And even when it wasn't life safety anymore and it was helping the families recover, they put that same work into it. That's pretty noble.
For DC Fire Chief John Donnelly, the response to the Midair collision is a career-defining moment.
What I remember more than anything was the whole Virginia shoreline was lit up with responders, and I sort of turned around and looked both ways on our side, and it was the same thing. And there was a lot of responders there, but there wasn't a lot anybody could do.
The collaboration of roughly 40 agencies, from federal to local, DC, Maryland, and Virginia, police, fire, EMS, and more, is what sticks in his mind.
I think what this story is really the importance of regionalization, the importance of working together.
The most unexpected part.
I ended up having to talk to the families every night for those 6 nights. That's a lot. I didn't expect that, but it does define who you are, and it forms some relationships there.
1 year later, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm pretty good. I have a therapist I talk to about it, but I'm okay. I worry about our folks. We still have some folks that are suffering from it.
I'm doing well.
Both Varga and Puglisi say they are doing okay. What gives them comfort amid the moments of grief is knowing this. They did everything they could to bring those 67 souls home.
We all raised our right hands and swore that the civilian population is more important than we are. And that doesn't stop when a person passes away.
In the district, a Marielle Carbone, DC News Now.
While they're doing okay, first responders admit it's been challenging, especially around the one-year anniversary of the crash. Last year, Monumental Sports held Legacy on Ice, a fundraiser that benefited the families of the victims as well as first responders. The DC Fire and EMS Foundation partnered on that event, which raised $400,000 for local and regional first responder agencies. That money, which was distributed through grants, was used in part to provide behavioral health support and programming for first responders.
This was a once-in-a-career event. It was devastating. It was an incredibly challenging response. They responded immediately to a tragic situation in the cold, waiting around in jet fuel.
The Washington Capitals paused to honor the first responders with this ceremonial puck drop by DC Fire and EMS. It was a symbol of sacrifice and a community's gratitude. Assistant Chief Danny McCoy says a quick and large response was only possible because of the collective effort.
Rallied for each other and supported each other during this incident. I don't know if I've ever been more proud to be a member of District Columbia Fire Department than I was that day.
The assistant chief says his focus remains on supporting the families impacted by the collision. Coming up, the father of the fallen Black Hawk crew chief recalls a moment he learned his son was one of the many killed over the Potomac.
You know, when I saw the news, I knew immediately it was Ryan. I felt it.
DC News Now's Haley Milon sits down with Gary O'Hara to talk about his son's service, his favorite memories, and the family he leaves behind. Welcome back to DC News Now's special coverage marking 1 year since a deadly midair collision at Reagan National Airport over the Potomac River. We have spent a lot of time talking about what went wrong in the air, the timelines, the investigations, the unanswered questions. But behind every number is a name. Behind every update, a family whose life was changed forever. Staff Sergeant Ryan O'Hara was many things. He was a crew chief aboard the Army Black Hawk helicopter, a son who never stopped asking how things worked, a brother who led by example, and a soldier who devoted his life to keeping others safe. In this next story, DC News Now's Haley Milon steps away from the wreckage and remembers Ryan through someone who knew him best and loved him most, his father Gary.
They say a father teaches his son how the world works, how to fix what's broken, how to take things apart, how to put them back together again.
Oh, he was a great kid. He was just happy as could be.
For Gary O'Hara and his son Ryan, that wasn't just a saying, it was their life.
Really inquisitive. Sister Taryn and he are only 17 months apart. From the day she was born, he was totally her big brother.
Ryan was content just being near his father, watching, listening, absorbing.
When I would tinker around with the computer, he would be right next to me. One of his favorite toys was a friend of mine gave us all these old computer cases. They were like Legos to Ryan. He'd go in and pull the cards on out, rebuild the computer.
For Gary, those moments weren't just memories, they were a preview of the man his son was becoming. Ryan's time in the ROTC during high school drew him to serve.
When he saw that they had the Black Hawk mechanic, that was it. He committed, proud and of course very nervous. I mean, every parent I think has that little bit of trepidation thinking that the worst might happen. His job was to maintain the helicopter, to know everything about the helicopter, and to keep his people safe.
Ryan would go on to serve more than a decade in the Army, including a deployment to Afghanistan before being selected for Fort Belvoir, an assignment reserved for experienced soldiers trusted with protecting the nation's capital. Ryan worked as a Black Hawk crew chief, the top mechanic on the aircraft, flying missions day and night over the region he came to love.
From the air, he said it was just unbelievable.
But on a January night,
I knew immediately it was Ryan. I felt it.
The confirmation came hours later.
We didn't officially know until probably 12:30 that night when we got a call saying that it was definitely Ryan's helicopter that had went down.
In the days that followed, Gary says he saw the same care his son showed others reflected back to his family.
That same respect and honor that they showed Ryan, they took with every person that they had to retrieve.
At Fort Belvoir, the Army said goodbye.
I mean, there were probably 800 people in the auditorium from that battalion. And I don't think that there was a dry eye in the audience having to say goodbye to those 3 soldiers.
Nearly a year later, Gary says grief doesn't leave. It nestles into the places left empty.
I'm not crying every day like we have been this past year. Getting through the holidays, it's been a little bit difficult. What we have right now is boots under the tree in remembrance of Ryan. So it's been a pretty awful year.
Ryan's presence is still felt in the city he loved, the soldiers he trained, and the father who still speaks his name every day.
Mary and I have really been overwhelmed at the outreach from those people who knew Ryan, wanted to just offer their condolences, send pictures, tell us stories about Ryan.
The O'Hara is now a part of the Gold Star family. It's a circle no parent chooses, bound by loving grief, understood only by those inside.
Some of the parents that have lost children in the military, they've been the ones that really have been the most hopeful for us, that, they've lost children, and we're just going on 1 year now without Ryan, and to hear them talk about their children that they might have lost 20 years ago, I don't think it's any easier for them 20 years later.
Remembered not for how he died, but for who he was and the bond that shaped him.
A family functions as a unit, and you take one person out of that, and really everything just starts to fall apart.
Gary carries the heavy weight of grief, but with every step forward now, that weight represents love for his son and the memory he's keeping alive.
It's another day where I'm not going to see my son. And that's pretty terrible to have to deal with that every day.
In Washington, I'm Haley Milon, DC News Now.
Many of the passengers on board Flight 5342 were members of the U.S. figure skating community, including the parents of Maxim Naumov, a U.S. figure skater who just earned his spot on the Olympic team. Olympic skaters and former world champions Vadim Naumov and Evgenia Shishkova were flying home from a development camp in Kansas when their flight collided with the military helicopter. The 24-year-old held a photo of himself with his parents while waiting to learn if he's done enough to make the U.S. Olympic team.
Making the Olympic team is such an honor, but me finding the courage and strength to actually go there and compete and do my job, I really wanted them to be there with me as I hear the scores, as I realize what's happening, and such a crucial moment in my life.
So powerful. Every step Max and other skaters take on the ice in Milan will be in honor of the lives lost over the Potomac River.
Saw them, I would always go oh, I want to skate like them. I want to be like them one day. I want to win gold medal like them. I know that they're still skating up in heaven.
Grieving friends and peers and mentees finding comfort together, sharing their stories of those on board the American Airlines flight. Welcome back to DC News Now as we reflect 1 year after the deadly Midair collision over the Potomac River. For the families of the 67 people who died, it was an unimaginable loss that left a permanent hole in their hearts. But they're not alone. A community formed, anchored by shared grief. DC News Now's Max Marcilla shows us how that community has helped guide healing, hope, and change.
From the moment the world knew of the magnitude of the loss, the 67 lives, 67 people, we saw community form.
And may their souls rest in peace.
Sometimes very public shows of community.
The loss of these 67 souls is heavy.
Vigils from Alexandria to Wichita, Kansas, and a large display at the Ashburn Ice House in Northern Virginia. Today, the display of flowers and stuffed animals is replaced by a memorial wall, photos of people who are no longer with us, capturing some of their greatest accomplishments.
It feels like it's been just 10 days and also 10 years.
Moments of connection began in private immediately after the crash. Doug Lane lost his wife Christine and son Spencer. They were coming home from the U.S. Skating National Development Camp.
I met another family. They were the first people I met. And what I found was just meeting them kind of shifted me out of feeling helpless and feeling like I had no kind of control of what is happening, to me realizing, well, I don't have control over a lot of things that I wish I did, but what I can do is I can try to help these people, and they in turn can help me.
Help is what these families have done. Behind the scenes, Lane says they've hosted weekly Zoom calls.
Intuitively, you would think, oh, the last thing I want to do is jump on a Zoom call with, and revisit my trauma every week. But I can tell you that many of us look forward to those calls, and we're really disappointed if we have to miss one.
Part of those calls to share memories and work through grief, but the other part is advocacy. It's the group of family members that has led the charge on Capitol Hill, speaking at press conferences and lobbying lawmakers. And it's worked.
I think that there was a very fine-tooth comb taken to make sure that there were no loopholes.
We know that it is an incredibly strong first step in what is needed for aviation safety reform.
Congress has passed the Rotor Act, which tackles a number of safety issues, from broader adoptions of airplane tracking technology to requiring safety reviews of DCA and all major and mid-size airports, plus more information sharing between the FAA and Department of Defense, and a review of Army policies.
I just kind of felt a calling to honor my wife in that way, to make sure that her loss doesn't go without some meaningful action.
Togetherness can inspire change. In many cases, it's also what's keeping people going. Through the hardships of life without loved ones, and through continuing their shared passion for skating. 12-year-old Claire Bang and 10-year-old Alexis Winch know that well.
When I saw them, I would always go like, oh, I want to skate like them. I want to be like them one day. I want to win gold medal like them. And skating kind of still makes me motivated to skate for them now. I want to think, oh, I'm going to win that gold medal for them. We've all been through it, and they can be there to talk about it with me, and we can support each other through it and talk about it.
The rink they call home was once home to even more. The Ashburn Ice House now graced with a memorial sculpture and a reminder of Flight 5342 at center ice.
Yeah, I feel that loss so bad, but I feel like rest of the student left. We have to keep going, we have to be strong.
That strength can waver at times. Grief is hardly linear. For skating coach Kitty McGorry, that happened before traveling for the latest development camp.
We couldn't fly. We drove to St. Louis, which is so far away. We just couldn't face that flight. But in a way, it was good because we had time together to sort of reminisce about those times.
A sign that even in those challenging moments, strength can be found in togetherness.
I know I've certainly grown as a person, and I've just seen people who were just completely devastated at the beginning of this process and weren't sure how to go on, and are now leaders in our group and are the ones that we look to for, kind of the direction.
That direction is different for everyone on the 1-year anniversary of the deadly crash. For some, it's pushing for more change on the Hill. For others, it's sharing stories of their loved ones to make sure they're never forgotten. But for everyone, it's a chance to practice resilience, a lesson learned alongside a group of people, a group of friends who were strangers just 1 year ago.
None of it will make up for the loss of the 67 people that died that day, but every little bit of good that we can extract from this that wouldn't have been there otherwise is definitely therapeutic for me.
In Ashburn, Max Marcilla, DC News Now.
The deadly Midair collision over the Potomac forever changed all of our lives. Our thoughts remain with the victims and their families. We will continue to bring you the latest developments from the NTSB and federal officials. I'm Chris Flanagan. Thank you for watching. Good night.